She's a pretty gal.
Yeah.
And a smart gal.
Oh, yeah.
Like an uncle? Like my uncle?
No. I'm very cunning.
Everybody ready? Notice to the public, if you wish to address the council, please complete the public wishing to address the council form located on either end of the counter and give it to either the chairman or the council clerk prior to the beginning of the meeting. All comments must be addressed to the council as a whole. Addressing individual council members or staff is not allowed. Speakers should be courteous in their choice of words and actions, and comments shall be limited to the issues and cannot involve individuals or staff-related matters. Thank you. All cell phones and electronic devices used for communication should be silenced during the duration of the meeting. I'd like to call the meeting of the Public Service Committee to order, and we'll have an invocation. Can you do it for me? By Mr. Pledger and the pledge by Mr. Pledger.
Heavenly Father, we ask for your guidance, for your wisdom, and for us to understand the needs of the people of Terrebonne Parish. Furthermore, we ask that you bless this nation, this state, and this parish. These and many other blessings we ask in your darling Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I dropped it over. Just. Ms. Charlie, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hamner. Here. Mr. Babin.
Here.
Ms. Sylvan. Mr. Trustclair. Mr. Pledger. Mr. Harding. Here. Mr. Voisin. Mr. Amity. Mr. Champagne. Here. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you, Ms. Charlie. Item 1, presentation of proposed Main Street Corridor Master Plan by the Terrebonne Parish Planning and Zoning Department. Mr. Pulaski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So like with the Community Development Block Grant disaster recovery allocations in the past, what we're like to do tonight is just to simply do a brief overview of the Homa Main Street Master Plan, introduce it, and then give you guys time to look it over. And then at the next council committee meeting in 2 weeks, we would be presenting you all with a resolution to adopt this plan. Now, we did a similar approach with the Planning Commission. We introduced it to them. They held it over through several meetings just to make sure that people had an opportunity to come in and comment. But ultimately they adopted it. I think it was in November of last year. So again, we're introducing it tonight. Now, some of you were part of this process. It started in late 2022. CSRS assembled a group of people and consultants. So here's a bit of them. CSRS, Riverbend Research did the marketing study. Carbo Associates were the landscape architects. So they put together a list of stakeholders. We had community meetings. We did walkthroughs downtown, trying to get as much input as we could. Also, this took into account, for those of you who recall, the demonstration day from December of 2019, right before COVID kicked in and sort of derailed all that. But a lot of the strategies and ideas that we talked about or showed at demonstration day made their way into the discussion for this master plan. So in the master plan, what you'd see is a bit of the history of the parish, a bit of the history of how this came to pass. The master plan, not only is it for Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, but the Homa Restoration District in the legislature that created that district, it talks about a master plan to guide that district. And that's what this master plan does too. So it was a partnership between the parish and the Restoration District. It is a master plan. It is not regulatory. So it gives ideas, suggestions, strategies, recommendations that then become ordinances or projects or whatever they need to be. Again, this is just the table of contents. You can see it gives a current assessment of the, number 2 is a current assessment of the Main Street corridor. And for the purposes of this master plan, they looked at from Main Street and Park Avenue from Polk to Grand Caillou Road. Now, that's where their focused area was, but they also had to be cognizant of areas and spaces off of that pathway. I mean, you can't talk about some of this stuff without talking about what's along Barrow Street or what's a block or two off of Main or Park. So just keep that in mind. Item 3 was a market analysis that a lot of research went into. They did some case studies of similar communities, and then 5, 6, 7 were different strategies, recommendations, and then 8 is a list of potential projects or recommended projects and the funding sources that could be used. So we had a series of meetings. This one was at the Folklife Museum. They looked at, like I said, they did an analysis of the areas, but you can see they looked a little bit more than just the corridor itself. They looked at existing conditions. They looked at streetscapes. They looked at some of the newly created spaces or positives, and then started going into case studies. And you can see a lot more of this in the actual plan itself. Housing was a major topic or focus. Historic structures, repurposing historic structures. Streetscapes, this is basically the beginnings of a complete street program and utilizing streets, making them more pedestrian friendly. And then some visioning of what it could be. Again, these are just ideas. And then this are different projects that kind of came about, and then different potential funding sources for some of these. And CDBG DR is listed in here, as well as some other funding sources. Economic development, administration would be some of the others. Riverbend Research did the market analysis, and it got pretty detailed in terms of what type of housing stock we would need for a healthy downtown, and it's all types of housing, sizes, incomes, you name it, it's part of it. Job industry, where our economy is going, and the types of housing needs that would, and businesses and the kinds of things that our downtown would need to fit into this and respond to it. Again, it has a series of recommendations. I think that might be.
Excuse me, Chris,
Yeah.
one sec. I know this is just an introduction
Yep.
tonight. We're all seeing it up here. We are going to have a full copy of this for everyone on the council. Some of them are trying to take notes on this, and I just wanted to let them know
Yeah.
that probably this week you will have us each a copy of your presentation.
Yes. So if you'd like, what I was going to do is email you the link to
Okay.
it, and then if you want to print it out, it's 8.5 by 11. So if you print it out, 8.5 by 11, it'll be
Okay.
fine. There you go.
That's what Mr. Pledger did.
So-
Hold on one second before you go in for Mr. Pledger.
Well, no. I'll
Okay,
ask
all right.
questions then.
All right.
That's the last slide.
Wait, hold on just a second, Chris. Let me get your light back on. Yeah, please do. Carly, can you just wait? Okay.
Okay, so the website for the public to look at too is tpcg.org/recovery. So that's where the CDBG DR lists of projects, all the presentations and everything that we were talking about previously. That's the website that's on. This plan is on there as well.
Well, now that some people are watching this on TV, we'll let you repeat that at the very end of your
Sure.
presentation, if you don't mind.
Yep, yep.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's the last slide. So it's really just a quick introduction. It's over 130 pages in
Right.
total. So there's a lot in there. But again, it's a master plan. It's not regulatory. It's meant to be sort of a guide. Master plans are usually the kinds of things that you update every 3 to 5 years. So this is kind of a first one. This is, in a way, this is an update of Chapter 9 of our 2012 Comprehensive Master Plan. So I think they did a pretty good job. I know a lot went into it, a lot of input, but there's a lot to soak in. So please, just take time to read through it. If you have any questions between now and 2 weeks from now, by all means, give me a call. But I think this gives a a sense of what this document is. So
Okay. Now, I had some lights earlier. Carly, did you have? I know it's just a presentation on your part, but there's going to be some questions. Carly?
Yes. I know you say you're gonna come back in 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks we're gonna actually accept it.
well, that's up to you.
To make
I
the
mean, we're going to
changes
be
of it.
presenting a resolution
Okay.
to adopt this, but if you guys feel, well, we have more to talk about, or if you want to hold it over, to give maybe more time for the public to comment or you all to read through it, that's fine.
What would be an ideal time, a particular time frame that we want to get this, and then we have the idea, say, 2 weeks, we might not agree with everything on there, want to add or subtract. How soon we want to get this up? I know as soon as possible, but
Yeah, I mean, we were like I said, this was going through the planning commission stages. I mean, but it's been a document that's been out there for a while. We'd like to get it taken care of, but we wanted to get through the CDBG, DR. We had some other things that we needed to get out the door that were a little more urgent than this. But now that those things are out in OCD and FEMA world, we wanted to focus back onto this document.
yeah, and a couple more things. You mentioned emailing the link. I guess I may have to put an extra burden on our clerk staff. You know what I mean? Because they actually be better. They have the capacity, perhaps, to really do that. And that way, if someone is at home, you know what I mean. I'm like Mr. Pleasure. I like hard copies where I can actually make on those hard copies and things like that. One more thing, CSRS.
Mhm.
All right. That was something brought out during the last administration. Had a whole list of drainage department, private agencies, faith-based organizations. All of these people were going to be come together, have some input in there. Was there ever a meeting with all of these people? They had a whole list of people that's throughout Terrebonne Parish, Homo Nation, NAACP, all of those folks. Were they actually in at the, was that Folk Life Museum, or how that get out to those folks, and what was their input?
Well, we were doing this at the same time as the long-term planning meetings, so we had those meetings happen all over the parish. These meetings were all downtown. We met once at the Folk Life Museum, once we met on site, and once we met at the La Petite Theater. As far as how they spread the word, I mean, I think at that time we were mainly just sending out emails to all the people that we had on our list, and who showed up is who showed up.
One more. All before we've been talking about Main Street.
Mhm.
So tonight is the first time, which I think is a great idea when you said off Bower Street. Man, and I've actually talked to the parish president about not only off to Bower Street, but down Lafayette Street. That's a historical value, a very nostalgic value I have with Old Homer. But I also had an event that was on Grand Caillou Road. And the 200 block of Grand Caillou Road. Will we go all the way to tunnel, or there are certain limitations because they had questions even Saturday. Are they incorporated because that border seemed to stop at Grand Caillou Road, and they're only in the second block, and there's some benefits that I think Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government can actually have with a faith-based organization that's community oriented. To actually to render some assistance, and so I guess we have to talk about how far we go off Bower Street, how far on Main Street, and how far we on Lafayette and all of those streets. So that's the discussion that actually happened, and I apologize for asking so many questions, but then these things just happen to come up as we saw it. Now I also saw 24 million and 30 million on one of those pages, somewhere around 112 or something like that, with block grant money. And that's not directly associated with the 117 million that we actually have. It's in that area, right here. That's it, right there.
I mean, it might have been at the time when this was done that the allocation that we were or at least what we were hearing, the allocation would be 112, and then it increased. I know when we got that second allocation, I think originally we got 41,
Mm.
and I think our gut feeling was that it would be about the second
Same.
allocation would be about the same, and then
It just blew up.
then they came
Yeah.
back right before Thanksgiving and announced that it was 76 million in that second allocation.
Okay, thank you.
That's it, Carly?
Mhm.
Mr. Pledger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First thing I want to address is, I've noticed that quite a few of the council members, myself, well, Mr. Carly, just a couple minutes ago, he mentioned that he was apologizing for asking so many questions. Ms. Kim, she's aware of that. She tries to be, I guess, in a sense of don't want to ask a lot of questions or doesn't want to seem burdensome. Mr. Clyde Hamner, he's apologized for that in the past for asking so many questions or whatever. But I'm letting all the council members know, all 9 of us, if we're here all night, that's our job. Do not apologize for asking questions. We're here, we're elected to be good stewards of Terrebonne Parish's people's money. So with that being said, if we're here a long time, and that's nothing at anyone directly, but as council people, we need to stop worrying about asking too many questions. But addressed to this here, just a couple questions. I saw you had a slide up a minute ago, and also the reason I
go back?
printed this off, I think it was, let's see here, page 11, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that one. I see here where it's a study area proposed expansion for the restoration district, I'm assuming what I'm reading there towards the end. Now that's at Morgan Street, that's going towards Polk Street is the proposed expansion, I'm assuming. Now, wasn't that Stanley parking lot recently sold? That's it's a different owner to that now, right? Or are we aware of, or?
I'm
No.
not sure if it's sold, but at this time when we were doing this, I know the restoration district was considering moving its boundary to Polk Street in order to encapsulate that Stanley property and the high rise property on the other side. Now, we've had discussions with the restoration district. They may not want to expand that, or it may not necessarily look like how we have it shown. Like maybe it doesn't go all the way to Polk. Maybe it stops. I can't remember the name of the little street right on
Antoine.
Antoine?
It could stop there, right?
Yeah.
That would take in that Stanley property at that point.
Okay.
But when this was done, that was at the time we said, well, let's just go ahead and include that as part of the study area.
Okay, yeah, and I was just curious as to, we're proposing to expand that, and that's fine. But also to allude to Mr. Harding's comment as far as District 1, when he mentioned on the opposite side of 2 blocks off of Grand Caillou Road from Main Street, that's a 165-year-old African-American church, and that, to me, is history, big
Yeah.
time. So in proposing the changes, if we could, just at least look at it to see if it's any benefit for the parish as a whole, because we have a lot of structures that are very old, and if we're in this quarter now, I don't know if it was addressed. Of course, I wasn't a part of the team, but if there's older structures and things that should be, if we potentially could incorporate that into that area, that would really, it would add more value to restoring Homa as it's known, the old Homa, I guess you can say.
Right. And, these types of exercises often lead to sort of spin-offs. So you could certainly consider corridor studies for Lafayette, Barrow, Grand Caillou. I mean, all those that feed into this. And I know I'm only saying on the Main Street side, you've got Williams and other streets on the other side as well, on the Park Avenue side, on the north side, that feed into this corridor. So
Yeah,
you have to know that those places exist to do the main part, the actual Bayou Terrebonne corridor correctly. You have to be aware that those other structures, places of interest, whatever history exists. But I think we could certainly look to expand on this as time goes on and do some corridor studies.
Absolutely. And another interesting point that I didn't realize was right behind St. Francis School. That's historic right there. That was.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even realize it after it's been turned into what it has been. But also, lastly, I printed that off, the 9x11, or this copy here, because the one that we have in the backup, it was sort of distorted, so I printed this one off, hoping to get a clearer picture of exactly, where the lines are drawn. With the link that's online that you suggested, does that one where you can zoom in and zoom out, it's clear? Is it a clear picture, or is it something that's still distorted and we need to?
I never had any issues with
Okay.
that one, but what I'll do is look at that link, also double check and see how to best print it out, like what size and format. It may be definitely it's going to be a landscape orientation. I don't think
Correct.
it'd be portrait, and it might be 11x17. It may not even be 8.5x11. But let me double check that.
Yeah, if you can't, and
And
I
in
just
the
want to be able
email
to
that
see
I
it a little
send,
better. Yeah.
I'll put, okay, if you're going to print this, do it in this format. Double-sided, landscape, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and it was just so I can see my eyes aren't the best, so just to see the streets and all that. But thank you, appreciate it.
Before, Kim, hold on one second before I get to you. When you get that and decide what's the best, send that to Mr. Keith.
Yeah.
And Tammy and them in their office, and they can print out a copy, a color copy for every one of us. Kim?
Okay, I had a few questions and it was distorted. It was really hard to read because I stayed up late last night trying to read this thing, and you're trying to figure out what words are really there and stuff like that, but I get it. One of the issues that I see in some of this is that you've had like the sheriff's office as has left, the DA's office as has left, and that's brought like a big dysfunction to Main Street. And I guess I'm kind of looking at how you're going to get not that back, but how you're going to get people to come back into downtown to shop and to change people's habits and different things like that. But the main part of it would be, how do you hit the hurdle of insurance? Because you're going to have, I seen where you wanted to build, homes on top of it and stuff. So I think that's going to be like a huge hurdle in that realm. And then I looked at what it was, let me see, the CBDG monies, the recovery disaster, and how it went with the Bayou activation. So I guess I'm kind of looking at what you're wanting to use on the Bayou activation part of it, considering we have bayous a little further from Main Street, and how much money like they're going after for that part of it. Also, I looked at, creating seafood markets and different things like that. I think that it would serve a great purpose to go look into Delcom and see what it has really done. When you're going to create that, because you're also going to do a disservice to every business that does seafood already, because you're creating that venue for them to come in and do such a thing. And we already have a downtown, what is it? The marina food market that we have there. So I guess I'm kind of looking at some of these things, and it makes me a little antsy. Not that downtown Houma does not need a spruce up. I think it would be great. I'm just kind of looking at some of the other things, and I think I'll go ahead and shoot you some more questions on that so that we can kind of go through that part.
So just when this was created, this list of project concepts, potential funding, and award range, this was done well before the DR allocation lists were put together, and all of those meetings that we had to populate those lists, and the specific amounts that are on those lists. So understand that there were some liberties taken with this. So I think if you want to see more about, well, what is the Activate the Bayous, it's that DR application that we submitted that really has the details in there. But small business incubator, that was something that was on the allocation on the DR list too. But these types of strategies and stuff, even though it was done for downtown Homa, I think a lot of these could apply to any commercial corridor or town center type area in some of our, bayou communities and more outlying area communities, whether north or south, right?
Right. So my next question would be this. I'm looking at all this potential funding. And so we have a grant writer, or do we have more than one grant writer? We have one. Okay. So how do you balance out going after just downtown? And because we have really big needs in the entire parish. I'm not saying that it's not needed, but what I'm saying is that we have greater needs all around this parish. How do you balance that out with only one grant writer and a whole master plan for downtown? And then, I'm a Bayou girl. I'm going to look out to where
Yeah.
I'm at. So I just want to know, how do we balance this out?
So, while we do have one grant writer on staff, we have consultants that are already contracted to assist us with these applications and administering them in some cases. Some of them, it's once we create the program, the RFP, that request for proposal that we put out, will have, as part of the scope of work, a company would have to come in and administer it, or some of these we would do in-house. It just depends on the scope. As far as projects and matching up the project to the funding source, I mean, a lot of these projects could fit into a lot of these funding sources, but you're going to pick the one that's best suited for that particular project. Just because it can doesn't mean it should. If it's a better fit for this funding source over here, well, we're going to push that project over there. And don't forget, the DR projects are all, have to be a benefit to low to moderate income and disadvantaged communities. So some of these projects may not meet that eligibility requirement. Some do, but not all of them would, for example. So it's just, that's how at least that's the starting point.
Yes, we'll go to, okay, Kim.
I think Jason had
Yeah,
some.
I have. Jason?
I just want to make sure, was your question that how do we prioritize downtown versus other areas and how we ended up, I guess, with this report in the first place? Is that, I thought I maybe heard that. I just want to make sure.
Put your light back on.
Okay.
No, more just like I'm looking at the funding, the potential funding sources, and then I'm looking at the parish as a whole. And then, no, I get that downtown has their own little, well, not little, but their group that they're going after this part of it in the main street, that you can do that. I'm just looking at this in this funding and seeing potential things that could help within my own district and other districts. And so I'm trying to figure out, how do we balance it while Main Street definitely needs, the home of downtown needs things. So do other entities within the districts. And so I'm just kind of wondering, with one grant writer, how we were going to balance it out with projects needed throughout. Does that make sense? Okay.
Jason, you want to respond? I'll put your light.
Just for historical purposes, I don't know if it helped Chris explain, how we ended up creating this in the first place. And then, I don't know if there's other opportunities specific to communities or other areas to do master plans, or maybe it fits under the Terrebonne Parish master plan. Maybe a little explanation that might help.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, so I know we're doing a lot of planning right now, a lot of planning exercises. So once we get through this, our next jump will be the comprehensive master plan, which is a parish-wide document. It's not too far off of the long-term recovery planning that we did a couple of years ago, but that was specific to Ida recovery, whereas your comprehensive master plan looks at everything. I mean, it looks at future land use 20, 30 years from now. So we'll be going forward with that later this year. We're just trying to spread it out a little bit so we don't get planning fatigue in the public, and it can be confusing too. Like, weren't we already here having the same conversation? And in some cases, the answer to that is going to be yes. But we will be moving forward on that later this year. So.
Okay, thank you, Chris. John?
Yeah, you really answered my question. I was going to ask if any of this potential funding is still out there from the time that we did that, but I guess the biggest thing is when we start looking to implement, then we'll look at what's available, and then, as always, some of this funding is very specific in its rules and to what it can be used for. So whether it's Terrebonne Parish or the entities that we deal with, like South Central Planning, for example, they go out and they find, we tell them, hey, we're interested in this, and they go out and find certain federal dollars that are available. So, Kim, that might be one area that you might look at as well. Put together, and for everybody, put together a list of the things that you want, and then let administration go out in there and see if there's some funding available. I've been trying to get something done, and I've tried all sorts of things to get shoulders on the road down on Main Project, and looking at all sorts of things that might be out there. Unfortunately, a lot of times the rules say it doesn't qualify. So I guess whenever we actually decide to move forward on this, we'll just have to regroup and see what monies are available, and go from there. So I think it's a good plan. We'll dig in it over the next 2 weeks. If we still need more time, we'll just keep it going until. Again, thank you and your department for what you're doing.
Thank you, John. Mr. Corley?
Yeah, and sometimes those grant writers, they're instructed to do and what they look for, just like central planning, they look for specifics. Therefore, you know what I mean? I think across the board, we got 9 members up here, and maybe another grant writer might look at different things. One look for the highs, and the other one look for the lows. But then support something I think I heard at the North Humber presentation that you had, Chris, is the fact that Monty View is downtown. So in essence, I think looking at the Homer Terrebonne category that we actually have, and so it kind of brought me into it a little bit, because I think the application you guys will be putting in. So we got Montague. We can use some of the money that, even though we're saying downtown, all that money don't have to go downtown. So I'm assuming, I have the confidence in you guys that all of it don't go downtown. Some of it goes to Gray, some of it goes to Montague and Chauvin, these areas where we can actually take advantage of some of these funds. So that's what allowed me, when you said that up there, that I think it was Montague that you used, and my constituents are hopefully, he didn't mention y'all, but he mentioned Montague, that Montague is downtown, so we can actually push the funds down there that way.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Think of
Chris.
the Highway 20 by the Schriever overpass. I mean, that's a commercial area. There's commercial areas in Gibson. I mean, there's still town centers, village centers. I mean, you can call it what you want, but it's there. Some areas it's a little more obvious than others, but what we're talking about for downtown, you could take some of that same thought process and apply it to these other communities too. And that's why we use phrases like activate the bayous. It's kind of broad, purposefully.
Thank you, Chris. Mr. Lorette?
I was going to address Ms. Chauvin's question about how we manage all this with one grant writer. The answer is that you outsource, right? All these consultants that we have, part of their job is to find this money for these grants. And would we like to have more than one grant writer? Absolutely, because right now, I mean, Ms. Jones is working on, I know she's working on a grant for the utilities department and several others for different departments. So there's already a backlog, right? So the answer is we outsource and we get more grant writers in the future.
Thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, I just want to say, so the purpose of this plan is really to help draw down money funding. You have to have a plan so that people will give you money, right? So the purpose of this is that you create the plan, and then hopefully we find the money to fund these things, right?
Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not unlike the hazard mitigation plan, which, by the way, the update that we did last year we found out today got approved by FEMA. So, but you do these plans so that when you do find funding sources from wherever it's coming from, maybe it's a reoccurring grant, or God forbid some disaster happens and money finds its way into your community, you've already got, hey, we know how we want to spend it. Here's how. And that speeds up the process and gets the money into your hands faster if you have a plan ready to go.
Okay, Mr. Pledger.
Sort of, thanks, Mr. Chair, sort of like the CDBG funds that we submitted, we have to have a master plan, sort of to kind of get that going, sort of, okay?
And just to add to all that, planning and zoning does a lot of these things. We have a lot of master plans that we have in place. As you mentioned at the very beginning, this is our master plan. It's not regulatory. It is a plan for the future. And I think towards the end, you said it best. If you do not have this plan in place, then how do you go out and try to seek that money? Okay, so to get the money to come in, you have to have a plan. None of this is etched in stone. It's a guide, is what it is. And, you know, and listen, I represent down the bay as well. But the way Terrebonne Parish is geographically set up, we have one municipality, and that's Houma. And it is the parish seat. So naturally, I think the assumption is you start on the parish seat and then you work out from there, just like we referred to the 5 buyers. Okay, so we all want it all for our district for sure. But this again is non-regulatory. It's a guide for us to digest over the next couple of weeks. And I think Carl said it best. If in 2 weeks we're not satisfied with the finished product, there's not that there's not a rush, because we want to get it in place, but we would have time that we could move it for another 2 weeks. So
Looming deadline like we had for the DR.
correct. Okay. Thank you very much. Seeing no other lights, let's move on to item number 2. Amend the condemnation order adopted on February 6, 2024 on the residential structure located at 108 Bobtown Circle, Houma, Louisiana, owned by Jonathan Celestine, by changing the deadline to complete demolition and or removal of the structure from March 11, 2024 to June 8, 2024. Moved by Mr. Harding.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hamner. Seeing no lights, vote your machines. The vote is 9-0. It passes. Thank you very much. That's in my council district. Item number 3, resolution authorizing the execution of change order number 2 for the construction agreement for Parish Project TBCG Hurricane Ida Main Branch Library repairs.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hamner.
Second.
Second by Mr. Harding. Seeing no lights, vote your machines. Vote is 9-0. It passes. Item 4, resolution informing the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality that the Terrebonne Parish Council, on behalf of Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, has reviewed the MWPP, which is Municipal Water Pollution Prevention Environmental Audit Report for the North Terrebonne Treatment Plant, and as set forth in the following actions necessary to maintain compliance with requirements contained in the LPDES permit, which stands for Louisiana Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Permit. Moved by Mr. Hamner, second by Mr. Harding. Seeing no lights, vote your machines. The vote is 9-0. The resolution passes. Item 5, resolution informing the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality that the Terrebonne Parish Council, on behalf of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, has reviewed the MWPP Environmental Audit Report for the South Wastewater Treatment Plant, as set forth in the following action necessary to maintain compliance with requirements contained in the LPDES permit. Moved by Mr. Voisin. Second by Mr. Champagne. Seeing no lights, all in favor? Excuse me, vote your machines. It's my age, okay.
Our age.
Vote is 9-0, passes. Motion adjourned by Mr. Harding, second by Ms. Chauvin. Vote your machines. Nothing's coming up. 9-0. Motion, meeting is adjourned. Oop, that's yours.
Notice to the public, if you wish to address the council, please complete the public wishing to address the council form located on either end of the counter and give it to either the chairman or the council clerk prior to the beginning of the meeting. All comments must be addressed to the council as a whole. Addressing individual council members or staff is not allowed. Speakers should be courteous in their choice of words, and actions and comments shall be limited to the issue and cannot involve individuals or staff-related matters. All cell phones and electronic devices used for communication should be silenced for the duration of the meeting. I'd like to call the meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee to order, and we'll have an invocation and pledge allegiance by Mr. Danny Babin.
Please stand. Heavenly Father, we come today to conduct business for Terrebonne Parish. Please grant us the wisdom so we can make the best decisions for this great community. In the name of Jesus, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Babin. Ms. Charlie, can we get a roll call?
Mr. Hamner. Here. Mr. Babin. Ms. Chauvin. Mr. Trustclair. Mr. Pledger. Mr. Harding. Mr. Voisin. Mr. Amity. Mr. Champagne. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thanks, Ms. Charlie. Item number 1, resolution authorizing the parish president to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement between Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and Vanderbilt Catholic High, and approving the waiver of fees for the use of the home of Terrebonne Civic Center on May 18th, 2024. Moved by Mr. Danny Babin, second by Mr. Clayton Voisin. Seeing no lights, members vote your machines. Vote is 9-0, motion passes. Resolution awarding the request for bids received for Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government Civic Center Hurricane Repairs to Delcon LLC, and authorizing the parish president and/or his designee to execute the contract and to provide for related matters. Moved by Mr. Danny Babin, second by Mr. Kevin Champagne. Seeing no lights, members vote your machines. The vote is 9-0, motion passes. Item number 3, concurring with the parish administration to award the request for bids received for TPCG Municipal Auditorium Hurricane Repairs, Hubs Properties LLC, and authorizing the parish president and/or his designee to execute the contract and to provide for related matters. Moved by Mr. Carl Harding, second by Mr. Clayton Voisin. Seeing no lights, members vote your machines. Motion passes 9-0. Item number 4, concurring with the parish administration approving the state contract purchase of 4 pickup trucks for the Forced Drainage Division from Lamarck Crescent City Ford. Moved by Mr. Danny Babin. Second by Mr. Carl Harding. Seeing no lights, members vote your machines. Got a light from Mr. Carl Harding. Ms. Harding?
Ms. Candace, I don't know the status. I just put a light on. And I guess I just want to put this out that these are actual pickup trucks. They are not dump trucks. They do not haul mud or anything like that. So, you know what I mean? The drainage department and the position they're in with their dump trucks and stuff like that. So we're going to send some pickup trucks over there for them. I just want to put that out there like that. pickup trucks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. The vote is still open, Keith. Thank you. Vote is 9-0, motion passes. Item number 5, authorizing Parish Administration to enter into a CEA on behalf of TPCG with Terrebonne Levy and Conservation District to participate in a project to rehabilitate the Reach K levee by contributing funds in connection with the project. Moved by Mr. Clayton Wazan, second by Mr. Danny Babin. Seeing no lights, members vote your machines. Mr. Babin?
Okay, yeah, let me go. Yeah, I just have a question for administration. We're fronting $250,000 to the levy board, which is, for lack of a better word, a reimbursable thing. It's an agreement that we have with them. Is this going to be in kind? The levy board will do work for us down the line. I don't think it's going to be a monetary gift back. If I'm reading the backup right, this is something that we're participating in, but it's fully refundable. Did I read that wrong?
I'll let Ms. Michelle.
This is a $250,000 funding that we're going to provide to the levy district, and they are going to do the work on the Reach K levy. They asked for funding from the parish government to help do the work. And I think this is in the area of Portneuf, when they're trying to
No,
close
it's
up the
definitely in the area of Portneuf going towards La Rose, and I don't have a problem with it. I just in the and I should have highlighted. I'm sorry, based on approval. I don't have it highlighted in here. I'm sorry. No, it's not a problem. I possibly read
That's
it
okay.
wrong.
Mr. Danny, if you want to get with me later,
Yeah, I will.
I'll talk
I
to you
will.
about
Yeah,
it. Mhm.
it's not a problem. I'll find it in here and point it out.
Okay,
Thank you very much, Mr. Pledger.
Thank you, Mr. Babin. Ms. Michelle, thank you as well. Vote still. Thank you. Thank you, Keith. Votes 9-0, motion passes. Item number 6, authorizing the parish president to execute an application form to the Louisiana Commission of Law Enforcement and the Administration of Criminal Justice fiscal year FY 2022 Victim of Crime Act Victims Assistance Grant for the Houma Police Department of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and to address other matters related thereto. Moved by Mr. Carl Harding, second by Mr. Clyde Hamner. Seeing no lights, members vote your machines. Votes 9-0, motion passes. Item number 7, authorizing the parish president to execute an application form to the Louisiana Commission on Law Enforcement and the Administration of Criminal Justice FY 2022 Victim of Crime Act Victims Assistance VOCA grant for the Houma Police Department of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and to address other matters related thereto. Moved by Mr. Kevin Champagne, second by Mr. Carl Harding. Seeing no lights, members vote your machines. Votes 9-0, motion passes. Item number 8, resolution authorizing the parish president to execute amendment number 1 to the agreement between Acrisure LLC, registered trade name Laris Insurance Agency, and Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government to act as insurance producer of record.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Clyde Hamner, second by Mr. Kevin Champagne. Seeing no lights, members vote your machines. Votes 9-0, motion passes. Item number 9, resolution authorizing the parish president to execute amendment number 1 to the agreement of Anthony J. Alfred Insurance Corporation to act as insurance producer of record for Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Clyde Hamner, second by Mr. Danny Babin. Seeing no lights, members vote your machines. Votes 9-0. Item number 10, consider the introduction of an ordinance to amend the 2024 adopted operating budget and 5-year capital outlay budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Item number 1, East Side Police Substation, $277,379, and calling a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, April 10th, 2024 at 6:30 PM. Moved by Mr. Carl Harding, second by Ms. Kim Chauvin. Seeing no lights, members, vote your machines. Oh, members, vote your machines. Votes 9-0. Mr. Danny Babin.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I want to go back on what I asked earlier. Again, I'm not an attorney, nor am I, well, what I was reading in here, it says, whereas Terrebonne Parish finds that an expenditure or transfer of public funds according to the terms of this agreement, taken as a whole, is not gratuitous, and the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government has a demonstrable, objective, reasonable expectations of receiving an equivalent value in exchange for expenditure or transfer. That basically means we're going to get some good out of this in the equivalent of, okay? And I just looked at it, I looked at it incorrectly when I said equivalent term to $250,000. I just want to clear that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Babin.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Babin. Second by Mr. Clyde Hamner. Members, vote your machines. Vote is 8-0. Good evening.
Notice to the public, if you wish to address the council, please complete the public wishing to address the council form located on either end of the counter and give it to either the chairman or the council clerk prior to the beginning of the meeting. All comments must be addressed to the council as a whole. Addressing individual council members or staff is not allowed. Speakers should be courteous in their choice of words and actions, and comments shall be limited to the issue and cannot involve individual or staff-related matters. Thank you. All cell phones and electronic devices used for communication should be silenced for the duration of the meeting. I'll now call the meeting to order with the invocation and pledge to be led by Mr. Kevin Chapon.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we make decisions that might affect the residents of Terrebonne Parish. We ask these things in your name, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have roll call.
Mr. Hamner,
Here.
Mr. Babin, Ms. Chauvin, Mr. Trustclair, Mr. Pledger, Mr. Harding, Mr. Voisin, Mr. Amity, Mr. Champagne. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you. Item 1, approve the co-sponsorship request from the Terrebonne Foundation for Academic Excellence for the TFAE Food Fest, Battle of the Bands, and 5K Run for Excellence to be held May 11, 2024, from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. at 7856 Main Street, Courthouse Square. Moved by Mr. Champagne, seconded by Mr. Babin. Any discussion? Seeing none, members, vote your lights. Nine, did you vote? We have 9 votes. All right, item 2, approve the co-sponsorship request from Gulf Coast Social Services for the Senior 2024 Sneaker Ball to be held May 24th, 2024, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Municipal Auditorium. Moved by Mr. Pledger. Second by Mr. Champagne. No lights, members, vote your machine. Here we have 9 votes in favor. Item 3, a resolution accepting the recommendation of administration and the risk management department that the approximate annual cost of $65,000 to $75,000 be accepted to purchase team sports insurance for the 24-25 basketball, baseball, softball, football, volleyball, t-ball, swim teams, etc. Moved by Ms. Chauvin. Second by Mr. Babin. I have a question from Ms. Chauvin.
Does anybody know what the starting date is for this? I'm looking at, we're in March. And we're just getting insurance for some of them stuff. So I'm just wondering, is it an April thing or is, it is? Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Pledger.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a question for clarity. In this, all the sports, basketball, baseball, softball, football, volleyball, t-ball, swim teams, those are all sanctioned sports by the parish, correct? Okay, so can you tell me what's et cetera? Just what would be an et cetera? Additional.
Keith.
So an et cetera would include, this company would be able to include another sport that would be added to the policy. So if we decided to host a league of some sort that isn't one of the listed ones, it would be added under the same sports policy.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Harding.
I think,
I'm
I
sorry,
don't-
Danny. I'll get you next.
You finished, Mr. Pledger?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and I guess the et cetera really got to him because I just put my budget book back offering that and it states specifically what is sanctioned by quality of life. What is sanctioned by quality of life? And so there you look at it, and I know that we have the Bayou Country Sports Park. That would be a perhaps scenario or something that you would actually apply the et cetera to?
No, because these are team sports, and these are sports that are sanctioned by the parish. So let's use Bayou Country starting from the front when you drive in. Soccer is put on by Bayou Soccer Association. So that is a sanctioned sport. Any relation to the other sports that are hosted at the sports complex, so softball, baseball, volleyball has just been added. If we would have a Terrebonne Parish volleyball league, a sand volleyball league, which I don't know of yet, that potential league under the recreation department could be, or quality of life department could be added under this same policy.
Right, and I
So-
guess that's would be the circumstances the people of the public might be actually looking at is the et cetera, because et cetera, if you haven't read it, and then it specifically states what is sanctioned by Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government in our budget book. So that's the point I want to put out there also.
Right.
Thank you.
No problem.
You good? All right, back to Mr. Pledger.
Yeah, now the as far as the policy would it read et cetera, or would it read specific to these sports?
Specific to the team sports. Let me show you on the backup which one this is covering. Or see if it lists this here. So let me give an example. So the reason that we're stating a range of 65,000 to 75,000 is because it's covering the team sports that we have submitted to this point this calendar year. So this policy term is rated on what we did last year, and each team sport that Jim Wendell puts together for the recreation department that he submits, he has to send to this company, receive their rate, and get approved based on the number of teams and kids and players in each sport. So the range is there for that reason. To your point, the specific sports, we've got a different rate for flag football, and then it is all the other ones listed here. The basketball, baseball, softball, football, volleyball, t-ball, and the swim teams. The et cetera is truly an if another sport would be added, it could be added under the same policy. There's nothing else sanctioned other than the ones listed right now.
Okay, I have no issue with the cost or anything like that, but I'm thinking if I want to get in the pickleball league, they'll cover that too as well, right? That'd be covered?
It would be additional premium
Additional
added to the
premium?
same policy. That's right.
Okay, all right,
Yep.
easy to know.
Mr. Babin?
Yeah, and that was my point. If we're starting this off for a new year, another 12 months, if this government, quality of life, or this council decides that we want 2 more sanctioned sports in Terrebonne Parish, we're covering it with this. And if it doesn't cover it, then the function of this government is to come to us for a budget amendment. Then we'd have to pass a budget amendment. It would probably cost us more to do it on the back end rather than the front end. We're covering ourselves. I can understand et cetera could mean a lot of things, but it basically, it means that if we add another sport, we're covering ourselves.
That's right.
With this additional $10,000. So we don't have to make a budget adjustment.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Bergeron, you want to go ahead and Mr. Harding?
Up to him.
You want?
And all I'm just saying is the fact that, I got it. You got it? And all I'm saying is page 178 of the budget that we actually set forth for 2024. And I'm assuming that, there, you already have something that's there. I'm pretty sure when some of the insurance people that might be writing this policy, they might say specifically because, et cetera could be, jump rope and they can get hurt by that. And then, I think we want to avoid this. So like Mr. Babin has said, I think we'll come back to the parish with the specifics of it, and we should come back. But it is on page 178, everything that we actually sanctioned.
That's right. And I'll clarify that this company is not placed through a broker. This is directly placed with the insurance carrier through our risk management department. So Rudy's office is not involved in this particular policy placement. It has been that way for years. It is a company that only deals with the end customer directly. So we have that placed with this recreation-specific company for that reason.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Chauvin?
Just one question. Wee ball's included in this? Because it's not T-ball, so I'm just like, it's Wee ball. And I'm just asking this because my daughter was like, she just got put on as a coach and has her little one in it. So I didn't see it listed, so that could be the et cetera.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Bergeron, your turn.
I just probably thought it'd be a good idea to have clarification on the fact that these are quality of life offered programs. I know that we're playing pickleball in some of the gyms and some of the recreation districts, which probably be covered under their policies. Ryan, if you could confirm.
That's right. General recreation that's happening at all these gyms that are just the public getting out and having a league of their own, let's say, not a parish sanctioned event, is going to be covered under just the recreation immunity of them going out and doing any sort of recreation activity on parish property. From someone going to a park with a family and enjoying the green space or playing on the playground, those activities are not sanctioned team sports, whereas and they're not even contemplated or covered on this particular policy. It's just the team sport offerings.
Hey, Ryan, I have a question. You had answered part of it earlier about the range, 65 to 75. I don't have it in front of me. Do you know the premium currently right now that we're paying them?
Let's see.
Is it closer to the 65 or the 75?
It's estimated at 70. So we're
Okay.
right in that $70,000 range currently, based on everything we've turned in for all of the Wii Ball, which was just added recently, and all the sports we have to date. That policy has been estimated, all the other sports we have throughout the rest of the remainder of the year, the football and what comes after that is going to be estimated at that same premium.
Is that premium going to fluctuate up and down during the year when sports are out of season?
No, it's an
It's gonna
estimated
be a
premium for the
premium
annual
for annual,
of
okay.
of basically the same number of teams, same number of sports we had last year in place.
Okay. Mr. Pledger?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just so that I'm clear and I understand you correctly, we had another provider for this same insurance previously, and we're going to this one now, right? Or it's the same provider?
Same provider.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Seeing no more lights, members vote your machine. Vote is 9-0. Resolution passes. Item 4, a resolution accepting the recommendation of administration and the Risk Management Department to accept the attached schedule of casualty insurance premiums effective April 1st, 2024 to April 1st, 2025. I'm gonna get to that page. Gotta remove my paper clip. No, that was it.
I'm sorry, I'm on the next. My apologies. Trying to get to number 6.
Mad when you're the oldest one up here.
Moved by Mr. Champagne and seconded by Ms. Chauvin. Seeing no lights, members vote your machine. Nine votes in favor. Item 5, motion passes. Item 5, resolution accepting the recommendation of administration and the Risk Management Department to accept the attached schedule of casualty insurance premiums for the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and Home Fire Department effective April 1st, 2024 to April 1st, 2025. Moved by Ms. Chauvin, seconded by who?
Danny Bob.
Mr. Babin. Seeing no lights, members vote your machine. And we have 9 votes in favor. Motion passes. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Babin, seconded by Ms. Chauvin. All in favor, vote your machine, and motion passes.